The dust storms of Xylos Prime had just begun to settle when Corporal Liam Voss limped into Medbay Theta, grit coating his fatigues like a second skin and a plasma burn searing through his left thigh. He didn't make a sound, just gritted his teeth and hobbled past the triage droids until a pair of slender, violet hands guided him onto a med couch with surprising strength. Her name was Vera Salyun, and she was unlike anyone Liam had ever seen. Tall and willowy, with luminous purple skin glowing faintly under the soft bioluminescent panels of the outpost's ceiling. She moved with the calm precision of someone who'd seen too many soldiers die and just enough live to keep trying. Her white hair, long and silken, was braided tightly down her back, threaded through with tiny silver beads that chimed like wind chimes when she turned. She wore the standard-issue medical tunic, but even in that plain garment, she carried herself like royalty, though Liam would learn later that on her homeworld of Lithera, healers were considered sacred, second only to the high matriarchs themselves. Liam tried not to stare as she scanned his wound with a handheld bioscanner, her slender fingers brushing his skin as she adjusted the device. He'd met alien medics before, green-skinned, four-armed medics from the Krellian Coalition, insectoid trauma surgeons from the Hyven Dominion, but none had unsettled him like Vera. It wasn't just her beauty, though that was undeniable. It was the quiet intensity in her amber eyes, the way she studied him not just as a patient but as a person. That, and the rumors. Word around the base was that Litherans didn't speak unless necessary, didn't touch unless healing, and certainly didn't accept compliments. Some said a Litheran woman hadn't been courted in over 200 cycles, partly because their society had collapsed after the Great Silence, partly because they believed themselves unworthy of love after failing to prevent it. "You're lucky?" Vera said, her voice low and melodic, like water over smooth stones. "The plasma missed your femoral artery by 3 millimeters. She began applying a cooling gel that stung like ice fire, and Liam sucked in a breath through his teeth. "Try not to scream," she added dryly. The last patient who screamed shattered 3 diagnostic lenses. Liam chuckled despite the pain. Noted. He watched her work. The swift, economical motions, the focused crease between her brows. She was efficient, yes, but there was something else beneath the surface. A loneliness so deep it seemed etched into her very posture. The way she held herself slightly apart even when standing close. He'd seen that look before, in the mirror after his unit got wiped out on Vexor 4. After the letters stopped coming from home. 3 days later, he was back in Medbay Theta. Not because his wound had worsened, but because he'd volunteered to help move supplies after an asteroid shower damaged the eastern storage dome. Vera was there, directing a team of medrones while manually sorting vials of neural Regan serum. She looked exhausted, her usually immaculate braid frayed at the ends, dark smudges beneath her eyes. And then, as if the universe had decided to throw Liam a bone, someone had brought in a crate of formal attire, leftover from a diplomatic gala that never happened due to the ongoing skirmishes with the Draken hegemony. Amid the chaos, a sleek silver dress tumbled out, shimmering like liquid moonlight. It must have been meant for a visiting dignitary. Vera stared at it like it was a ghost. Before Liam could stop himself, he picked it up and held it out to her. "You should try it on," he said, voice softer than he intended. Vera blinked. "I'm a medic, not a diplomat." "You're also the only one here who'd look like she stepped out of a star's dream," Liam replied, then immediately regretted it. Too bold. Too human. He braced for her to retreat into silence, or worse, reprimand him for unprofessional conduct. Instead, she froze. Her pupils dilated. Her breath hitched. And then, slowly, as if moving through a dream, she reached out and took the dress. She didn't say thank you. She didn't say anything. But her ears, slightly pointed, like a cat's, twitched, and the silver beads in her hair chimed faintly as she turned toward the back chamber. An hour later, she emerged. The silver fabric clung to her curves like starlight given form, the high collar framing her delicate jaw, the open back revealing the intricate swirls of bioluminescent markings that ran down her spine. Markings Liam hadn't known existed. Her white hair was loose now, cascading over one shoulder like a waterfall of snow. She looked ethereal, regal, heartbreakingly out of place in a war-torn medbay full of humming machines and wounded soldiers. Liam forgot to breathe. "You look stunning in that dress," he said, voice rough with sincerity. Vera nearly fainted. Not metaphorically. She actually swayed, her hand flying to her chest as if her heart had skipped a beat, or 10. Her purple skin flushed a deeper violet, and for the first time since he'd met her, she looked utterly, wonderfully flustered. You cannot say such things," she stammered, clutching the edge of a nearby med table. Litherans do not receive compliments. It disrupts the emotional equilibrium. It's dangerous. Dangerous how? Liam asked, stepping closer. Because it makes your heart race? Because it makes you feel seen for once. She looked away, but not before he caught the shimmer of tears in her eyes. You don't understand. My people, we were healers, guardians of life. When the silence came, the great plague that stole our children's voices, our elders' memories, we believed it was our failure, that we were unworthy of joy, of love, of beauty. She touched the dress lightly. Wearing this, it feels like betrayal. It feels like hope, Liam countered gently. And if anyone deserves to wear hope, it's you. Just then, the outpost's alarms blared. A deep, wailing shriek that sliced through the fragile moment like a blade. Red emergency lights flooded the corridor as a voice crackled over the intercom. All personnel. Draken Raiders inbound. Breach at Sector 7. Medbay Theta. Prepare for mass casualties. Chaos erupted. Medics scrambled. Drones realigned. Soldiers poured in, bleeding and shouting. Vera moved instantly, her moment of vulnerability gone as if it had never existed. But as she passed Liam, already grabbing trauma kits and setting up triage lines, she brushed his arm, just once, and whispered, "Stay close. I may need your strength." What followed was a whirlwind of blood, plasma burns, and fractured bones. The Draken hadn't just attacked the perimeter, they'd used sonic mines that liquefied internal organs. The wounded screamed in ways Liam had never heard before. Vera worked tirelessly, her hands moving faster than human eyes could follow. Her voice calm even as she barked orders in 3 languages. At one point, a young trooper with half his face gone reached for her, begging for his mother. Vera knelt, placed her palm over his chest, and began to sing, a low, haunting melody in her native tongue. The trooper's breathing slowed. His eyes closed. He didn't die in pain. Liam watched, awestruck. He'd seen medics save lives. But Vera didn't just heal bodies. She soothed souls. Hours later, when the last patient was stabilized and the body bags hauled away, silence returned. But it was a heavy, grieving silence. Vera stood in the corner, her silver dress now stained with blood and soot, her hair tangled, her hands trembling. Liam approached slowly, holding out a clean med tunic. "You did everything you could," he said. She didn't take the tunic. Instead, she looked up at him, her amber eyes filled with a storm of grief and something else, something raw and unguarded. "They say Litherans cannot bear human children," she said suddenly, as if the words had been clawing their way out for days. "But we can feel human kindness, and that terrifies me more than death." Liam didn't know what to say, so he did something reckless. He reached out and gently tucked a stray strand of white hair behind her ear. Her breath caught again. This time she didn't pull away. "I'm not asking for anything," he said softly. "Just let me be here. Let me see you in that dress again when the war's over. Let me tell you how stunning you are every single day until you believe it." She stared at him, her chest rising and falling quickly. Then, with a trembling hand, she took the med tunic, but not to cover the dress. She folded it carefully and set it aside. "Keep it clean," she whispered, for when the war is over." But the war wasn't over. 2 nights later, a covert Draken strike team infiltrated the base. Silent, armored, equipped with neural disruptors. They weren't after weapons or data. They were after Vera. Liam woke to the sound of muffled shots and the acrid smell of smoke. He grabbed his sidearm and sprinted toward Medbay Theta, his heart pounding. What he found froze him in place. 3 Draken operatives surrounding Vera, who stood defiantly in the center of the room, her hands raised not in surrender, but in warning. Around her, the wounded soldiers in their cots were beginning to glow faintly, the Litheran healing field, amplified to lethal levels. "The matriarchs are extinct," one Draken hissed. "But the last Solune heir still carries the bloodlight gene. The Emperor wants it." Vera's voice was ice. "You will not take what was never yours." Then she unleashed it. A pulse of pure bioluminescent energy that sent the Draken flying backward, their armor cracking like eggshells. But the effort drained her. She collapsed to her knees, blood trickling from her nose. Liam didn't think. He fired. 2 shots. 2 Draken down. The third lunged at Vera with a vibroblade. But Liam tackled him mid-air, crashing them both into a wall of cryo-storage units. Glass shattered. Frost billowed. The Draken was strong, inhumanly so, but Liam had rage on his side. He slammed the alien's head into a support beam until the body went limp. Panting, covered in frost and blood, he turned to Vera. She was crawling toward a fallen Draken, her fingers closing around a small data chip embedded in its wristband. "They've been tracking me for cycles," she said, voice hoarse. "My blood. It can regenerate entire ecosystems. The Draken want to weaponize it. Turn life into a commodity." Liam helped her up. Her skin was cold. "Then we run." "We can't." She looked at him, her amber eyes burning with determination. "But you can help me finish what my ancestors started. There's a vault beneath the Crimson Peaks, where the seed of Lithra is hidden. If I activate it, our world can be reborn. But I need a guardian. Someone who fights not for conquest, but for compassion." Liam didn't hesitate. "I'm your man." They left that night under cover of a sandstorm, stealing a battered skimmer from the motor pool. As the outpost shrank behind them, Vera sat beside him, her silver dress hidden beneath a survival cloak, but her presence as bright as a beacon. She didn't say thank you. She didn't need to. Days turned into weeks as they crossed the irradiated wastes of Xylos Prime, evading Draken patrols and hostile terrain. Liam learned things about Vera she'd never spoken of. How she'd been the youngest healer ever certified on Lithra. How she'd watched her entire family fade into silence during the plague. How she'd volunteered for this war not to fight, but to heal the wounds no one else would see. In turn, he told her about Earth, about sunsets over the Pacific, about his little sister who sent him holograms of her school plays, about the guilt that gnawed at him every time he survived when others didn't. One evening, as they camped beneath a sky teeming with twin moons, Vera removed her cloak. She wore the silver dress again, cleaned, mended, glowing softly in the moonlight. "You look stunning in that dress," Liam said, smiling. This time she didn't faint. She laughed, a sound like chimes in a quiet garden. And then she kissed him. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't explosive. It was warm and soft, and filled with the promise of things yet to come. When they finally reached the Crimson Peaks, the entrance to the vault was hidden behind a waterfall of liquid crystal. Vera placed her palm on the ancient seal, and light erupted from the ground, spiraling upward into the sky. But as the vault opened, so did the horizon. Draken dropships darkening the sky like vultures. "They knew," Liam growled, raising his rifle. Vera took his hand. "Then let them come. This time we don't run." She stepped into the vault, and Liam followed, not as a soldier, but as something far more rare. A human who believed in the beauty of an alien woman's hope. Inside, the seed pulsed like a heart made of starlight. And as Vera reached for it, her white hair glowing, her violet skin shimmering with ancestral power, Liam knew one thing with absolute certainty. This wasn't the end. It was the beginning of a story no one had dared to write. The seed of Lithra wasn't a seed at all, at least not in any botanical sense. It hovered in the center of the vault, a sphere of swirling silver mist contained within a lattice of living crystal that hummed with harmonic resonance. As Vera stepped forward, the lattice unfurled like a blooming flower, tendrils of light coiling gently around her wrists. Her breath caught as memories, not hers, but those of every Lithran healer who had come before, flooded her mind. She staggered, clutching her temples, and Liam caught her before she fell. "They're showing me what we lost," she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Not just our voices, our purpose, our connection to life itself." Before Liam could respond, the ground trembled. The Draken had breached the outer chamber. Their heavy boots echoed like thunder against the ancient stone. Vera's eyes snapped open, now glowing with an inner fire. "The seed needs a conduit," she said urgently. "A living vessel. Me." "No," Liam said instantly. "If they get you, they'll dissect you like a lab rat." "I won't let them take me," she said, her voice firm but trembling. "But if I merge with the seed now, I may not return as I am." "What does that mean?" "It means I might become part of it, forever bound to its will, its cycles. I might forget your name, forget this dress, forget the way you looked at me when you said I was stunning." Liam grabbed her shoulders. "Then don't do it yet. We fight. Together." She searched his face, as if memorizing every line, every scar. Then she kissed him again. Longer this time, deeper, as if sealing a promise across lifetimes. "Then fight like your life depends on it," she said, pulling away. "Because mine already does." The first Draken warrior crashed through the vault entrance, plasma rifle blazing. Liam fired from the hip, his shots precise despite the shaking in his hands. He wasn't just protecting Vera anymore. He was protecting the last ember of a civilization that had chosen healing over hatred. He ducked behind a crystal pillar as bolts of plasma scorched the air, the heat blistering his neck. Vera, meanwhile, began the activation sequence. Her hands moved in intricate patterns above the seed, her white hair lifting as if caught in an invisible wind. The vault walls responded, glowing with bioluminescent glyphs that pulsed in time with her heartbeat. Outside, the desert sky darkened, not from clouds, but from the sudden bloom of strange, violet-hued flora erupting from the cracked earth. Life was returning, and the Draken knew it. More enemies poured in 10, then 20. Liam was running low on ammo, his sidearm nearly spent. He grabbed a fallen Draken rifle and switched it to overload mode, tossing it into the oncoming wave. The explosion bought them seconds, precious, fleeting seconds. But then a new sound cut through the chaos. A deep, resonant horn blast that shook the very bones of the mountain. Liam spun around. Marching through the vault's grand archway was not another Draken squad, but a procession of figures clad in golden armor, their skin shimmering in shades of green and blue, their hair a cascade of fiery orange and snowy white. At their head strode a woman with emerald skin and eyes like molten gold, her armor etched with the sigil of the Celestial Accord. A treaty Liam had only heard whispered about in intelligence briefings. The Accord hadn't been seen in over a century, presumed extinct after the fall of the High Synod. Vera Salyun, the green-skinned woman declared, her voice ringing like a struck bell. Daughter of the last matriarch, we have come to bear witness. Vera stared, stunned. The Accord? You survived? We hid, the woman said, stepping forward and bowing deeply. While others fought or fled, we preserved what remained. And we waited for the day the seed would awaken, for the day a Salyun would dare to hope again. Liam lowered his weapon, heart pounding. This changed everything. But the Draken weren't done. From the shadows of the vault's upper ledge, a cloaked figure emerged. Taller than the others, his armor black as void, his eyes burning with cold intelligence. He carried no weapon. He didn't need one. This was General Vorshak, the Butcher of Kellis Minor, the Draken commander personally responsible for the genocide of 3 sentient species. You sentimental fools, Vorshak sneered. You think life can be reborn with songs and starlight? The universe doesn't reward kindness, it rewards power. And I will take the seed, drain it dry, and forge an empire from its ashes. He raised a gauntlet that pulsed with antibiological energy, designed not to kill but to unravel DNA, to unmake life at the molecular level. Vera screamed, "No!" and lunged toward the seed. Liam didn't think. He tackled her aside just as Vorshak unleashed the pulse. The blast struck the seed's lattice, but instead of destroying it, the lattice absorbed the energy, flickering with unstable light. A feedback surge erupted, knocking everyone off their feet. Cracks spiderwebbed across the vault ceiling. Dust rained down like ash. In the chaos, Vorshak seized his chance. He grabbed Vera by the throat, lifting her effortlessly. You will activate it, he hissed. Or I'll peel the memories from your mind one by one until only obedience remains. Liam charged, but 2 Draken guards intercepted him, beating him to the ground with ruthless efficiency. Blood filled his mouth. His vision blurred. He couldn't move. Then Vera did something unexpected. She stopped struggling. Instead, she placed her hand gently on Vorshak's armored chest and smiled. You don't understand, she said softly. The seed doesn't need activation. It only needs a willing heart. And she kissed him, not out of affection but as a conduit. Vorshak's eyes widened in horror as Lythran energy surged through him. His body convulsed, his armor cracking open to reveal skin blooming with violet vines. His mouth opening in a silent scream as his very cells were rewritten. Within seconds he collapsed, not dead but transformed. A small tree of crystalline leaves sprouted from his chest, its roots spreading into the stone floor. The Draken soldiers froze, terrified. Their general gone, replaced by something beautiful and irreversibly alive. Vera stood, trembling but unharmed. The seed hovered beside her now, no longer contained, its light gentle but immense. The seed doesn't destroy, she said, turning to the Accord warriors. It transforms. It heals even those who seek to harm it. The green-skinned commander knelt. Then let us serve as its guardians. But Liam saw the truth in Vera's eyes. The cost had been immense. Her hair was no longer pure white. Strands of silver had turned ashen. Her skin, once vibrant purple, now held a faint translucence, as if she were slowly becoming part of the light around her. Later, as the Accord secured the vault and tended to the wounded, Liam found Vera sitting on a ledge overlooking the reborn valley below. Where there had been dust and ruin, there was now grass, flowers, even the distant call of a creature neither human nor alien, but something new, something hopeful. He sat beside her, not speaking at first. The silence between them was comfortable, filled only by the whisper of wind through newborn leaves. "I'm fading," she said finally, her voice quiet. "Not dying, but changing. The seed is weaving me into the world. Soon, I won't be able to hold your hand, or wear this dress." Liam reached into his pack and pulled out a small vial, filled with a single drop of her blood, taken during the Medbay days, before any of this began. "Then I'll carry you with me," he said. "In my veins, in my memories. And every time I look at a sunset, or hear laughter in a crowded room, or see a flower push through cracked concrete, I'll know it's you." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "You were never just a soldier, Liam Voss. You were the first human to ever make a Lutheran feel worthy of being called beautiful. And you," he said, "were the first person, alien or human, who made me believe I could be more than just a weapon." Days turned into weeks. The Crimson Peaks became a sanctuary. Refugees from dozens of species arrived, drawn by the rumors of rebirth. The Accord, once hidden, now stood openly as stewards of the new world. And at the heart of it all stood the vault, no longer sealed, but open like an embrace. Vera still walked among them, though less and less each day. Sometimes she appeared as a woman in a silver dress, tending to the sick. Other times, she was the wind through the trees, the shimmer on the lake at dawn, the warmth in a stranger's smile. Liam stayed, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. He trained a new generation of peacekeepers, humans, Lutherans, Accord warriors, teaching them that strength wasn't just in firepower, but in compassion, in listening, in seeing the stunning beauty in someone even when they couldn't see it in themselves. One evening, as he stood on the same ledge where they'd shared their last full conversation, a soft chime reached his ears. He turned. There, in the moonlight, stood a girl, no older than 10, purple-skinned, white-haired, wearing a simple tunic stitched with silver thread. She held a small crystal flower in her hands. "Are you Liam Voss?" she asked, her voice shy but clear. He knelt. "I am." She held out the flower. "She sent me," she says. "She hasn't forgotten your promise. And that one day, when the stars align just right, she'll wear the dress again, just for you." Liam took the flower, pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat. He smiled through his tears, because this wasn't the end. It was 1,000 beginnings, woven together by kindness, stitched with starlight, and guarded by a human who once told an alien nurse she looked stunning, and changed the fate of worlds. The crystal flower bloomed in Liam's palm the moment his skin touched it, petals unfurling like tiny wings, releasing a soft, warm light that painted the evening air in hues of amethyst and gold. The girl watched him with wide amber eyes, identical to Vera's, though her expression carried none of the ancient sorrow that had once shadowed the healer's gaze. This child was new, unburdened, born not of flesh alone, but of the seed's quiet miracle. "Your name?" Liam asked gently, still holding the flower. "Leary," she said, "daughter of the first bloom." Liam's breath hitched. "You're hers." Leary tilted her head. "She is in everything now, but she remembers you best." Before he could respond, movement flickered at the edge of the terrace. 2 Accord sentinels approached, green-skinned, armored in living jade that shifted with their breath, but they halted respectfully at a distance, bowing in unison. "Commander Voss," the taller one said, her voice low, "we've intercepted a transmission. The Draken hegemony is fracturing. Vorshak's disappearance triggered a civil war among their warlords. But something worse is coming." Liam stood, tucking the flower carefully into his tunic pocket, its glow pulsing faintly against his chest like a second heartbeat. "What?" "The silent choir," the sentinel replied, and even her voice seemed to tense at the name. "They've reawakened." Leary's eyes widened. She stepped closer to Liam, her small hand slipping into his. The silent choir, an ancient order of bioengineered ascetics from the dead world of Zirith, who believed consciousness was a disease and silence the only cure. They had once tried to cleanse Lithera during the early days of the Great Silence. They were the reason the matriarchs had hidden the seed in the first place. "They're coming here," Liam said, already piecing it together. "They sense the seed's awakening, and they'll try to erase it permanently." The sentinel nodded grimly. "They've already purged 3 outposts. No survivors, no bodies, just silence." That night, Liam convened the Accord Council in the Heart Chamber, a circular room beneath the vault where the walls themselves whispered memories in 1,000 voices. He stood before them not as a soldier, but as Vera's chosen guardian, his authority earned not by rank, but by sacrifice. He laid out a plan. Fortify the peaks, evacuate the civilians to the subterranean biodomes, and prepare a final stand, not with weapons but with resonance. Because Liam had learned something in his time with Vera. The seed didn't fight with fire or force. It answered violence with life. And life, when nurtured with intention, could be the most unbreakable shield of all. Over the next week, the sanctuary transformed. Fields of sonic blooming flora were cultivated. Plants that emitted harmonic frequencies capable of disrupting neural implants. The Accord wove armor from living fiber that could heal its wearer mid-battle. Even Liam trained in the old Lytheran art of harmonic focus, learning to channel his own biorhythm into the land itself. It left him exhausted, trembling. But each session brought him closer to the whispering presence he now carried in his chest. Vera. Not gone, but changing, guiding. Leary stayed by his side through it all. She taught him the seed's language. Not in words, but in light patterns, in the way petals curled toward the twin moons. She called him Father of Promise, a title that both humbled and terrified him. He wasn't ready to be anyone's father. But then again, he hadn't been ready to fall in love with an alien healer either. The attack came on the night of the twin eclipses. The sky turned black as both moons were swallowed whole, and in that unnatural darkness, the choir descended. Not in ships, but on silent wings of engineered bone and shadow. They moved without sound, their faces smooth and featureless, their bodies humming with anti-resonance fields that killed plant life on contact. Where they walked, the reborn valley withered. Liam stood at the peak's edge, flanked by Accord warriors and the last of the Lytheran descendants, now dozens strong, thanks to the seed's quiet work. Leary stood just behind him, her small hands clasped around a glowing root that pulsed like a living staff. "We don't kill them," Liam called out, his voice steady despite the fear clawing at his ribs. "We awaken them. Every mind they've silenced, we give it back." At his signal, the defenders began to sing. Not battle cries, but lullabies, old Lytheran cradle songs, earthfolk tunes Liam remembered from childhood, Accord hymns of renewal. The harmonic field spread like ripples in a pond, amplified by the valley's crystalline geology. The choir staggered, their smooth faces cracked, revealing glimpses of eyes, humanoid, terrified, trapped. One by one, they fell to their knees, clutching their heads as lifetimes of stolen voices flooded back. Not just their own, but the voices of everyone they'd silenced. The weight of memory broke them more surely than any bullet ever could. But their leader, their high conduit, did not falter. She stepped forward from the darkness, taller than the rest, her form shifting like smoke given shape. Her face finally resolved into something almost familiar. Sharp cheekbones, white hair streaked with ash, eyes the color of dying stars. "Vera," Liam whispered, his heart hammering. But it wasn't her. Not quite. "I am the echo she left behind," the figure said, her voice layered with 1,000 whispers. "The part of her that chose silence over pain. The part that believes the universe is too cruel for beauty." Leary gasped. The shadow self, the seed, in its infinite compassion, had not only rebirthed life. It had resurrected Vera's buried trauma, given it form so it could be faced. "You don't have to do this," Liam said, stepping forward alone. "She forgave herself. You can too." "She was weak," the shadow hissed. "She let love in, and love always ends in loss." "Not always," Liam said softly. He pulled the crystal flower from his pocket. It glowed brighter in response, casting a pool of silver light at his feet. "Sometimes love becomes something else, something that lasts longer than bodies, longer than names." He knelt and pressed the flower into the soil. The ground trembled. From the earth rose a figure, not solid, but woven from starlight and memory. Vera. Not the healer, not the ghost, but the truth of her. Flawed, fierce, and unashamedly loving. "I am not weak," the real Vera said, her voice resonating through the valley. "I am whole, And I choose to remember, not just the pain but the joy, the dress, the kiss, the man who called me stunning when I felt invisible. The shadow self trembled. Tears of liquid shadow traced her cheeks. But what if I'm not worthy? You already are, Vera replied. Because you're part of me. And she embraced her shadow. Light and darkness merged in a silent explosion of grace. When it faded, only Vera remained. More solid than she'd been in months. Her skin warm purple once more. Her hair gleaming white under the returning moons. She turned to Liam, her eyes filled with quiet wonder. I'm not fully human, she said. And I'm not fully Lutheran anymore. I'm something new. Do you still see me? Liam walked toward her, took her hands in his, real, warm, alive, and smiled. Every day, especially today. Behind them, the valley began to heal anew. The choir, freed from their curse, knelt and planted seeds in the scorched earth. The Accord warriors lowered their weapons and joined them. Leary ran to Vera, wrapping her arms around her waist, and for the first time Vera held her like a mother, because she was. Weeks passed. The sanctuary grew. Ships arrived from distant systems, not to conquer, but to learn, to heal, to begin again. And in a quiet corner of the garden, beneath a tree that bore both earth apples and Lutheran moonberries, Liam helped Vera into the silver dress once more. It shimmered in the sunlight, catching the light like a promise kept. You look stunning, he said. This time she laughed, bright, clear, and utterly human in its joy. And as the twin suns set over the reborn world, casting long shadows that no longer held fear but only the shape of what could be, Liam Voss and Vera Salyun walked hand in hand into a future they'd fought for, bled for, and loved into existence. One stunning moment at a time. Years later, the Crimson Peaks became known across the galaxy not as a battlefield, but as the cradle of renewal, a place where broken things went to heal. Liam never returned to Earth. He didn't need to. His home was here, in the quiet hum of the seed's song, in the laughter of Leary chasing fireflies through orchards that bore fruit in 3 colors. Vera never wore armor again, but she never stopped healing, through her hands, her voice, and the gentle way she held Liam's face when the nightmares of war returned. They built a small house of living wood and crystal near the vault, its walls blooming with flowers only Vera could name. On clear nights, they'd sit on the porch, watching starships pass overhead, some carrying refugees, others diplomats, all bearing stories of worlds touched by the miracle that began with a compliment in a dusty medbay. The silver dress hung in their bedroom, not as a relic, but as a reminder. That beauty matters even in war. That kindness is a kind of courage. And that love between species, between soldiers and healers, between the lost and the found, can rewrite fate itself. One evening, as the twin suns dipped below the horizon, Leary ran to them, breathless, holding a newborn sprout that glowed with soft amber light. The first of a new species, neither human nor Lutheran, but something born of both. Vera took it gently, tears in her eyes. Liam wrapped an arm around them both. And in that moment, under a sky stitched with stars and hope, the universe felt not vast and cold, but intimate, alive, and stunningly kind.